God damn it. You get fucking caught up. Boss is gonna kick my ass. It's bullshit. Fucking.
Hey, so, this is Crime Boss Rockay City. We're doing this video on the floor because why not? Alright, so on March 27th, 2023, IGN dropped the trailer for Crime Boss Rockay City, and then it dropped the next day. Huh. Oh, this is not a AAA game. In fact, the wiki shows that the developers' names aren't even blue. You know what that means? Nobody really knows who you are, and as of current day, this is the only game that these dudes have released. Although, the individual members of the Czech team have experience with major video game projects. For example, at least one of these Czech boys worked on UFO, The Cold War, and Silent Hill, Downpour. Oh, and Mafia series along with Arma. Now, for a first game as a team, this is not the worst joint I've ever played in my life, but I don't want to blow my load too early, so I'll commence the Jayson Tarantino process, starting with the story. Crime Boss Rockay City starts with a tutorial, and I was immediately surprised. Not because it looks good, but because I thought that this was one of those quote-unquote GTA clones. See, before I bought this, I didn't look at any gameplay footage at all. I'm also gonna admit that I never played Payday in my life, but after seeing about 10 seconds of gameplay, I can see the similarities. And what the hell, I'll throw this out there, Payday 2 probably clears this easily. As for a first impression, well, I'm not disappointed, but I can assure you my answer would be completely different if I had paid $40 for this, like the 20 people that did during the initial release. Anyways, our first task is a jewelry store robbery, and instead of running in and shooting everybody, then bag the jewels and dip before the cops run in, the game opts to teach us the stealth mechanics. This includes a how-to basic lesson on how to subdue the opposition. You would probably imagine something similar to Hitman, where you throw an object at a person's forehead or choke him or her out and stuff them in a closet, or like Metal Gear Solid, where you tie a balloon to your enemy and they float to the HQ to be recruited by your organization. At least I think that's how that worked. I haven't played that game in years. Hey, future me, is that how that works? Yeah, okay, that's how that works. Instead, you sneak up to a target, bonk them with your gun, and then zip tie them. As long as nobody sees a subdued dude, then you're in the clear. Even though their legs aren't tied up and their mouths aren't covered with tape, I see we're operating by the Scout's Honor mindset here, which is dumb, but I guess it makes sense through the lens of a video game, giving you, the player, a set of rules to abide by. It's still dumb though. Coming back to the tutorial, it's pretty regular. Stay out of sight of the cameras until you reach the control room where you can turn them all off, zip tie anybody who gets in the way, and finally run the jewels. Afterwards, we're shown a cutscene where in Rockay City, Florida, the king rules the streets with an iron fist. Ruled the streets with an iron fist. The assassination leaves a power vacuum and gives the main protagonist, Travis Baker, a chance to become the new king of Value Brand Miami. His team includes Kay Bassinger, I don't know who that is, the first MCU Thanos, and Michael Rooker. I'm not too confident in having Big Mike on the squad given his track record. Okay, now that I'm looking at this group, I'm starting to think that this game was a money laundering scheme. You've watched The Retirement Plan with Nicolas Cage and these guys, right?
The Retirement Plan only made 1.6
Okay,
million.
never mind. The antagonists seem to have the same random character generator thing going on as well. Is that Vanilla Ice? Oh my god, it is. And apparently he's running a gang. And so is this super funny Chinese stereotype. And Danny Trejo. He actually fits in a game like this. But we have one more person who's trying to stop Travis Barker's plan.
Sheriff Norris, the good folks of Rockay City are super relieved that you're here.
Oh dude, it's 2006.
Okay, what is it?
It's a train heist.
That's outside our playground, but we can assist the feds.
Did you bring in Chuck Norris to voice act? Oh no. You see, Chuck Norris looks like a badass with actual combat experience to boost said badassness, but he was not blessed with an intimidating voice. He sounds like Bob Ross with strep throat. Of course, that's not the primary issue here. We should really focus on why Chuck Norris chose to pop perk after perk after perk before having his lines recorded. Okay, I'll be a little bit charitable. Almost everybody else was sleepwalking in the booth, but Chuck is D1 ass cheeks. It's a whole new level of terrible even for him.
They flew helicopters inside my city
Well, the air marshals and us, we disagree on...
and airlifted the treasure straight through a skylight?
The inner city should be a no-fly zone.
Twice?
Baker is good, sir.
He is bad. Bad.
We need to consider the air marshal's request.
We need to consider what happens now. The family will sue. Khan will be chasing Baker. Baker will somehow come out on top with cash.
He should have been in Resident Evil 1, but we should get back to the story. So Travis and his gang partake in robbing, stealing, and clapping the opposition, and he'll either take over Rockay City or skedaddle after the cops run down on him. Or die, that's also an option. That's it for the story. I'm not even trying to be funny. Crime Boss Rockay City is structured in a way where the story takes a backseat to the gameplay, which is kinda understandable. I don't think it's a good idea to give any of these guys more voice lines. Hopefully this means that the gameplay can make up for the bare bones story. We're not going to do a transition screen, let's just get into it. Before starting a mission in Crime Boss, there's a couple of things you can do to progress both in the story and in your level. You can claim empty territories, select goals, and buy assets that you can't interact with because this is not a AAA game. In terms of customization, you can recruit people into your gang for missions. The potential hirees are randomized, and so are the ones that are on your team at the beginning of the campaign. There's also a black market where you can purchase weapons and equipment. These range from common to ultra super gnarly or something, and the selections are also randomized. Did I ever mention how much I dislike this relatively new common to exotic system? If the game is lacking in gameplay depth, then the system ends up making everything feel worse via repetitiveness. Straight up, the last two video games I did a review on had the same exact issue, among other things. In this case, there's not much going on here. To list them, there's the territory missions where the objective is to take out a select number of enemies that vary in difficulty tiers. When you're defending, you get to play as Michael Rooker with an LMG. Surprisingly, it's not that difficult to keep him alive. The allied soldiers, however, are cannon fodder. For sneaky missions, you got the cameras and the silly subduing methods that I talked about beforehand, but it's worth mentioning that it's all based on the 3-strike system, where activity that's deemed suspicious will be recorded as a strike, barring enemies seeing hog-tied people and unsilenced gunshots, of course. All the cops/gang members in the vicinity will be alerted. As for the suspect actions that rank below, letting that thing talk. If a broken box is discovered, that's a strike. If a camera is broken, that's a strike. If a guard is killed, that's a strike. Even if all of them are zip tied, you will still get penalized. That's so dumb. But that's the gist of the stealth missions. To re-summarize, sneak in, zip tie people, turn off cameras, and steal stuff for money. On the shooty shoot loud side, it's straightforward. Walk in and complete the objective whilst adding more holes to your opposition. And while you're alerting everybody within a 5-block radius, the cops will make their way to the area and attack you in waves. These cop waves get stronger over time, and that carries over into the next mission until the day ends. Now, when you add heists to the mix, the field becomes 5% more interesting. As expected, there's some prep missions that you have to complete before starting the big job, along with the sometimes optional, sometimes mandatory opportunities to purchase equipment. In my experience, I was able to do 2 heists per campaign. On the bright side, they do feel more grand and intricate compared to the regular missions. Some of them can be finished stealthily, others have to be done while every police station in Florida is trying to kill you, and for obvious reasons, heists give a significantly larger payout. The last mission type in this game revolves around your hired guns, because some of them have shit to do on the side that unfortunately takes them out of the lineup for future assignments, but they make up for it by allowing us to explore these side characters way more than the protagonists. Yeah, don't worry, I know that makes no fucking sense. If my memory serves me correctly, I'm pretty sure Danny Trejo appears in one of these where he's in Nam with one of our allies. I think this was also the same mission where I thought the game was going to implode, judging by the insane drop of frames. Oh yes, it is. There's something absolutely crazy about a game not being able to run properly on a PS5 just because the map level has a lot of greenery. By the way, you're disincentivized to skip these missions because if you do, that character will be away from your team for the rest of the campaign. Thankfully, they're pretty easy to get through, despite the difficulty rating over here that rises along with the other missions on the map as the day goes on. Even the one with the Vietnam dude, which I'm 93% sure is a flashback. Unless dude was still active in the military and his game takes place in the 1960s. But that doesn't make sense since we can use Glocks.
Hold up!
Enhanced.
Wait, they're called Glizzies? Glizzies? Aw, hell nah, man. Look at the Glock.
Help!
Help me! So that's all the mission types in the game. I don't know about you, but I expected it to be this sparse. Actually, since I have some time to kill, I might as well talk about my experience playing through the game. That way I can cover some of the stuff that I missed. My first playthrough was initially mundane, a couple of missions here, a couple of missions there, along with a handful of shitty lines.
I happen to know a supplier who loves to bury his beak in some blow. I can cut a great deal if we feed his habit.
Okay, wait, that wasn't the line, but you would not expect what the next frame is gonna look like. Okay, let's run it back.
I happen to know a supplier who loves to bury his beak in some blow. I can cut a great deal if we feed his habit.
Well, how strong a habit are we talking about exactly? Because, you know, I've heard you get more miles when you do your piles.
During a territory mission, I found out that you can bounce dead bodies off the ground just by hitting them. I'm a well-adjusted human being. The game has a leveling system where every time you get a new level, you get to choose from 3 options. Usually a new weapon/equipment, a pair of ass cheeks, or a character you can use for multiplayer mode. Gee, I can't wait to see how popular that is. As I progressed through the campaign, I noticed that a lot of the cutscenes reminded me of the Saints Row 2 cutscenes for the activities/DLC. And I want to be clear, that is not at all a compliment. Average Saints Row 2 cutscene. The boss finds a new way to torture and or kill somebody. Average Saints Row 2 activity cutscene. Reverse shot. And the next thing you know, you're spraying feces onto a 2-story house. It's the same thing on Crime Boss, besides the poop spray. The vast majority of the cutscenes here are as stiff as all get out. But at least on Saints Row 2, that was only done for the stuff outside the main story, and the rushed, super sloppy, and unnecessarily difficult DLC. Here we gotta sit through this 3-way battle between the motion capture, the mouth animation, and the voice lines. There is even a time where I guess whoever was in charge of the lip syncing threw in the towel.
Get caught here, it's game over, man. Send everybody we got to touchdown. Get them geared up. Full fucking war paint.
Thankfully, the writing makes up for the shitty cutscenes by being hilariously bad. I mean, at least as a positive in that regard. Moving on, during the burgle mission, I was curious on how the game would react if I had closed the application. No, seriously, look, it was just an experiment. Now, the 25 other times I quit the game before dying, that's a different story. But if you exit during a mission, you'll get shot right back into the beginning of said mission, which is good for the times where you messed up so badly that you're in need of a reset. Thankfully, the game isn't that difficult to the point that I needed to use and abuse this exploit. Until the part where I got jumped by a cornucopia of cops. Yo, so remember Chuck Norris?
Get ready. This is it. We got him cornered.
My apologies. How could you possibly forget? Well, he's got this investigation bar that fills up as you progress through the campaign. And guess what percentage it was at this point? Next thing you know, I'm in the middle of the street getting jumped by at least 75 policemen. Listen, when I tell you that this is the worst ass whooping I've ever received from a video game, I'm being dead ass. The objective here is to make it to the extraction point and wait for the vehicle, I think. I always get shot and laid out before I can even reach the destination. The worst part about this is that there's no such thing as safe cover here. Every time I try to hide behind something, a cop runs a slant route and cracks me with 33 bullets to my right titty. And the game is crazy enough to give you a couple of bags filled with money as if my main objective isn't to survive, but rather to make sure my pockets are still fat after leaving Rockay City. Hold on, stop the footage for a moment. Enhance. You see that man with a white health bar above him who's about to open a can of whoop ass on me? That's a detective. They have a chance to appear in one of the regular missions. And despite the lack of body armor on their person, they will tank more bullets than Prime Lil J and return fire with a gun that was specifically crafted to cook your organs well done. And of course they had the final stand perk, because why wouldn't they? It's bad enough that I have to deal with the regular police and the killer robots, but now I have to deal with these assholes too? Oh yeah, there's killer robots helping the police department. What the fuck is going on?
How come? After all this time, I still defeat you.
What? When the campaign ends, we can select which permanent upgrade to unlock to help you in the future. After doing that, I decided to run it back, but this time on a normal difficulty. Man, this is what I get for talking shit about people who don't play in the hardest difficulty. The crazy part is, that wasn't even on extreme mode. The second playthrough was pretty rudimentary, but it was at this point where I noticed that Vanilla Ice doesn't say a single word nor make a cutscene appearance in this game at all. I'm gonna go with the idea that they only paid to have his face in the game, but skipped out on having him voice act because they were too busy trying to give Chuck Norris doses of Narcan. I know that he has lines somewhere, but I prefer my headcanon. Now that I mentioned it, I don't think these street bosses make an appearance on the streets, even in the respective final missions before getting knocked off the map. Maybe it's a contractual thing, maybe it's related to the DLC that I'll talk about next, but it's super lame to only get a weak ass cutscene saying that such and such will no longer be messing with us. Although in this campaign run, after doing the yacht heist, I could choose to either take the Colombian marching powder for myself or give it to the cops to get rid of Khan. It's a different way to get him out of the picture, for sure. Why is there already a photo of him getting arrested? Alright, that's hilarious. Anyways, after I take over all the territories, we throw a big party and Chuck Norris fucks off to Texas or something. The credits roll while Travis is admiring the back of his own head. Truly an artistic decision was made here. And that's it for Rockay City. Wait, not really. We got story DLC, 2 as a matter of fact. 2 more than Gotham Knights, wallahi. Well, let's start with the Gold Cop. In this DLC story, Travis joins forces with Danny Trejo in order to heist all over a gold depository. We're given a planning board that's pretty useless, but we do have a couple of ways to execute the robbery. I only did the silent approach because putting your trust in your AI teammates in a loud mission is like trusting me to have a consistent upload schedule. Besides the 72 bags filled with gold bars that we had to move to the big body Tonka truck and Danny yapping in my ear.
You go through the maintenance room. It'll get you to the trucks. You go through the maintenance room. It'll get you to the trucks. Go through the maintenance room. It'll get you to the trucks. Go through the maintenance room. It'll get you.
The Gold Rush heist wasn't too bad. It made me think a little bit more. And now we have a metric fuck ton of money. Also, Danny wants to join forces.
But I'm gonna be king regardless.
Okay, I promise you that I didn't press the X button. The game made that decision for me, but we have bigger fish to fry. This implies that he'd be in our payroll and would join in on future missions. But the problem we have here is that the campaign is over, so not only is him joining our team useless, barring the multiplayer, but all of my money is gone. I should have mentioned this earlier, but when you start a campaign over again, all of the money you had beforehand is non-existent. I wish I knew that before I shoveled that many damn bags. Whatever, next DLC. In the Robo Cannoli mission, we discover the origin of the robots that jumped me during the end of my first playthrough. Miss Robolegs over here is the head of the company that manufactures them. What's her backstory? What's her motivation? Why does she have tink legs? Well, if you're seriously asking any of those questions, then you have not been paying attention. Bad guy shows up, bad guy wants you dead, we must kill bad guy. That's it. Even the guy that helps us with that task is inconsequential to the story. He never shows up in person and all he does is yap in my ear. The campaign has a couple of missions that are quite difficult, but it wasn't really that crazy until you get to the finale. Now, I don't count the 100% police investigation raid as a mission, but more as a 6 pass of pain level of ass whooping. With that being said, this is by far the most frustrating mission to complete, especially if you're trying to finish the first half stealthily. The reason I say that is mainly because of the length of the mission. First, you gotta sneak into the building and enter the elevator. Then you gotta jump through hoops so you can enter the robo control panel. Then you gotta fight your way through the building and reach Cannoli's room for a boss fight, and that's probably the most annoying part. All she does is stand in the center of the room with her hackable shields while both the turrets and the robots are respawning just to waste as much time as possible. She also chucks grenades that down your dumbass if you're not paying attention. You might be wondering why you're seeing my face instead of seeing gameplay footage of the boss fight. See, what had happened was my Elgato popped a molly and overdosed during the recording, and by the time I noticed, I had already defeated her. I'm not playing that shit again. After beating Cagnali, we have the choice to either spare her or put a bullet in her head. What do we get if we spare her? Fucked if I know. At the end of the campaign, I was rewarded with robo allies and a futuristic submachine gun that I can use for turf wars. Let me emphasize this again. At the end of the campaign, I was rewarded with robot allies and a new weapon that I can only use on territory missions. And just like in the last DLC campaign, once I reset, this shit is gone and I have to start from scratch. You wanna know what's the biggest problem in this game? It lacks a big reason for you to keep playing. The proverbial carrot at the end of the stick. I'm sneaking around and or shooting shit up for what? Money, weapons, allies? They're gonna be gone after I'm finished with the campaign. The assets and the permanent upgrades only feed into having an easier campaign run, so I ask, why should I keep playing? To fill up the progression board? The gameplay isn't good enough for me to beat the campaign 12 more times to play as a thought's idea of a Halloween costume. Imagine dealing with all of that. Now imagine dealing with all of that while maneuvering through the bugs and glitches. No, not the funny stuff like character models acting weird, that's whatever. I'm talking about the shit that makes you restart the game. During my playthrough, there are too many points where I somehow lost the ability to move. I can teabag, I can jump, but my left stick is no longer in use. Let me show you my favorite bug, alright? First we gotta start the game up, and while the game's doing its whole boot up thing, all you gotta do is just tap the X button repeatedly. If you do it right, it's really easy. The game should lock up. It don't work. I'm being dead ass, see look. Crime boss Rockay City really shot itself in the foot with its gameplay system, and only an insane amount of DLC could maybe fix it. I'm talking once a week, lock the studio doors, crunch type shit. So to conclude, Crime Boss Rockay City is a buggy, glitchy, monotonous mess. Totally not worth the $40. However, if you find it for around $10, that's a different story. The funny voice acting and the okay shooting alone is worth that price. Or you can buy Payday 2. Alright, I'm out of here.